before I go to my next guest, because it's pertinent to the discussion I suspect we're going to have with my next guest, got an email from a Mike. Mike says this, Muskrat Falls is not about markets, it is about our domestic power needs. Muskrat Falls is $2.5 billion cheaper than any alternative. They pay an average of 30 cents U.S. kilowatt hour in California and 36 cents a kilowatt hour for power in Hawaii, a similar closed system like ours. I'll take my energy info from professionals, not minstrels. Well, my next caller, certainly not a minstrel. He's an extremely bright man who has a strong view, I believe, against Muskrat Falls. Is that not correct, Cabot?
Yes, Tim, that is certainly correct. Just a couple of quick comments.
Sure, go ahead.
You've already had a number of phone calls on Muskrat Falls.
Yes.
I'd like to reiterate about the 80% exposure that we have to the increase in the costs on the maritime link.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, we signed a deal, Nalcor signed a deal with the Emira that basically said, you've got these rough DG2 numbers, and it's like 1.2 billion, and if when you do your further engineering, there's a cost increase, I'll pick up 80% of it. And I think that our exposure on that one item is probably in the order of about $500 million.
Okay.
In other words, we will have to cut a check to Emira for $500 million.
Because we got the math wrong?
I think that they've already said that our exposure is at least $240 million, and they haven't got all the final numbers yet. So I think that a prudent person would sort of say, well, let's pencil in $500 million here. And it's very unfortunate that we're entering into this Italian contract with a whole bunch. We've had a long list. Mr. Randall was very good on that.
Can I just ask you a question? So just to be clear as you're talking about it, is the issue the contract with a firm that's a foreign firm, or is it just the nature of the contract itself?
Well, it's not about the foreign firm.
Okay.
I have no knowledge about the exact qualifications of anybody, but it's the idea of entering into this enormous obligation without having all your ducks in a row. I mean, this is the equivalent of doing sanctioning without having adequate geotechnical work on the North Spur. I mean, you do your foundation work first before you start building your house, and that's a good analogy. But I'll come back to that some other day. Basically, we go back to, making commitments, always eroding your bargaining position with whoever, right? Whether it's Quebec or whether it's Nova Scotia or with financiers, or you're just digging this hole where you shouldn't be making billion-dollar commitments until you have everything in line. And unfortunately, I think the motivation is to get this thing so far, so much committed that you can't.
So it's about momentum.
It's about momentum. It's about creating a fait accompli. That is not a very good thing to be able to say about a public institution, but I'm forced to say it. But I think if we get back to the basics, we have to understand that Muskrat Falls, no matter how you cut it and dice it and slice it, it's totally uneconomic. It's totally out of step. I mean, your previous email talked about Hawaii and the closed system. Well, Emira is down bringing compressed natural gas, or in the process of bringing compressed natural gas to another island called the Bahamas. And everybody is trying to solve the shale gas revolution, which has taken hold so well in the United States and is spreading around the world, eventually, and shale oil as well. This is real, and they can look forward to 5 to 6 cents power in the United States, and really in all over North America. So I fully understand where Nova Scotia is coming from. The new Liberal government, I predict, will have a policy review and look and see how they can get better integrated into the new world of energy in the United States. Right?
Cabot, let me ask you a question, because you've done a lot of research, certainly from your time in government. You know the ins and outs of the Upper Churchill Well, and during your day there, certainly there were sorties into looking at the development of Lower Churchill. My frustration with this debate, and I think a lot of people's frustration with this debate, and it played out a little bit with Con, is there's a lot of information out there, and you've just given some that's useful. For people that are still trying to figure this out, what do you recommend they look at? Appreciating that you have a particular view and I have a particular view, but if people want to educate themselves about this, what do you suggest they do so that they can have a real good think on it?
Oh, well, I think the first thing to do is to revisit the energy plan that we're executing the Muskrat Falls under.
Okay.
That plan was drafted. You can Google that. The energy plan is all over the natural resources site, the provincial site. It was drafted in 2006 and basically announced by Premier Williams in 2007. Great fanfare. The problem is that the world that is described in that energy plan no longer exists because of the shale gas revolution.
Yeah, I agree with you. Shale gas
that's a fundamental fact. When you have it's like someone buying the last buggy, getting a bargain on the last buggy whip factory after the Model T Ford came out. No, it's that big a revolution.
Fair point.
That big a revolution. And anybody who tries to have energy policy, and if you go at the energy plan in 2007, the word shale gas is never mentioned. Now, I can certainly understand that, because I didn't understand. At one time when we were talking about gas in Newfoundland, we used to always say, we're going to put that gas, and someone said, well, what are you going to do with the gas? I said, we're going to generate electricity and we'll put it on an Alcor export line. And I was given this presentation down in the United States, and all of a sudden I realized I was talking nonsense, because these guys were looking forward to cheap energy. Mm-hmm. They didn't want expensive energy from Newfoundland. So the world changed.
Right.
And unless we understand the fundamental nature of the changed world, where the resources of the Lower Churchill River have gone from being a valuable asset to being totally uneconomic. You can't, if a CEO came into me and says, I got a plan for our next energy source, it's going to cost you 30 or 40 cents a kilowatt hour under a cost of service basis to get it to the island, and I'm saying, well, hang on, they're down getting 5 and 6 cent power down the States. Can't we get some of that gas up here? What about our own gas?
And I'm going to have to stop you there, not because you're not making a good point, but we got to take a break. I appreciate your perspective. I much prefer having this sort of conversation, though we may have different views, where we can get all the information out on the table. I think that's what everybody in the province needs, as we're in this new discussion about Muskrat Falls. But thanks for your call today, Cabot.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Take care. That was Cabot Martin. Of course, he has strong views against the project. Lots of people still very active issue.